Hello, hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you? Hopefully, my dogs are chewing on bones behind me and they're
Yeah,
really
I got two with me right now, and there's always fingers crossed, but there's always editing in case anything goes crazy. So literally right before Cedric's right beside me, and there's some cords in the corner, and he was about to step in like three, and I was like, I don't think that's good. I don't think that's good.
could be unsafe. Oh my
Well,
gosh.
awesome.
I do know my husband is gonna be coming home at like 3:40 or so, and Tenna will probably bark because she always does. She gets excited. So that might have to be edited out. So just so
Oh, that's fine. You know what? My dad's coming home at some point. I command his office up here, and he's like, "Would you mind putting in my computer downstairs and plugging it in?" And I'm like, "Sure." And so he's gonna come, the dogs and go wild. We're in the same boat. We're good to go.
hopefully it happens at the same time so we can just edit out both.
That's right. Awesome. Well, we have Sam Ewashko with Adventure Hounds, the founder of Adventure Hounds, and you have been um, really involved with dogs since you were young, starting with Sam Sitting Service. So, kind of, do you want to share a little bit about your beginnings with your interest in dogs?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've been obsessed with dogs since I was a kid. They've been my entire life. My best friends were dogs when I was a kid. I had my human best friends too, but I specifically had one dog. His name was Tahoe. He was not our dog, but he was a neighbor's dog.
Yeah.
He lived down the block, and my bus would drop us off right in front of his house. And every day I would get off the bus and I would go sit in the grass with Tahoe about my day.
Yep.
And truly, it sounds so cheesy, but he was such a big part of my journey. And he used to pull on leash like crazy. And
Yeah.
as a kid, I was like, I'm gonna teach that dog how to not pull on leash. And I did actually. And I worked with him, and I taught he didn't know sit or down, and I worked on
Yeah. I
him.
bet
And
those neighbors, I bet your neighbors were thrilled. They're like, wait a minute, we don't have to pay for this? This is yeah.
really, they loved it. They loved it. They encouraged it. They were like,
Yeah.
anytime you come hang out with Tahoe. And so
Yeah.
he
You need
was
to
the
send an invoice through Adventure Hounds years later. I think that's the way to do it.
oh my gosh.
Uh, Great. So yeah, so you started that dog and just I get it. I mean, sitting and talking to dogs. I walk this dog named Gracie and I just talk to her in the neighborhood. I'm like, Gracie, you're doing a good job. Or like you're just kind of sing to him and you're like, man, I hope no one's watching me right now.
I know, right?
That's awesome. So was that now, were you in North Carolina growing up as well?
I grew up in Pennsylvania. I've
That's
only been in
right.
North Carolina for about just under 2 years now.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure. It's a good place to be, especially in the fall. I have my Bobby Boy drip coffee with me right now, so I'm doing all right, powering through the afternoon.
I love,
Um,
love it.
so we talked a little bit about you with your interest in dogs, and I believe you went to like volunteer at local shelters, that kind of thing. And you were thinking kind of vet school. That was the route, and it ended up kind of being a little bit different. We had kind of similar stories on that. So do you want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I wanted to be a veterinarian. That was what I latched on to as a kid. I wanted to go that path all through high school. And that was the path I was on. I actually shadowed at a veterinary hospital all through my teenage years, and I just loved it.
Yeah,
Um, but when I turned 19 and was in college, I had a mental health breakdown,
sure,
essentially. I
sure.
went through some really, really intense mental health struggles that I mean, put a pause on everything in my life, including college. I took a year off of college,
Definitely.
and spent a lot of time really diving into my own healing and my own mental health and learning about mental health. I didn't even know at that time I had been experiencing panic attacks for most of my life, actually.
Wow.
And I didn't even know what a panic attack was. And
Yeah,
so
if you don't know, how can you? And I bet even though that was incredibly hard and time taking time off of college is hard. I was talking a little bit. I did something similar kind of with me, but just understanding and being like, okay, so my brain does work in a way that might be different, or and just having that, even though it really, really sucks. I mean, just the acknowledgement and maybe a diagnosis can really help for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely. Absolutely. The education is so, so, so helpful. And that's why now at this point where I've gotten to a point where I have done so much healing, I don't have panic attacks anymore. I
Great.
really try to talk about it. I really try to share because there might be someone out there who's listening and is like, oh, that I can relate to that. And it can set them on a path of healing themselves. And so I think it's so incredibly important to talk about this stuff because if I had known at 13, 14 years old, I probably would have done a lot better and maybe wouldn't have had the breakdown that I did.
Exactly. And I think it's almost, Gen Z has really started conversing about mental health and they're open about it. Some may be self-diagnosing a bit too much, but that's
No,
but I mean it
I think it's
opens
powerful.
it
Yeah.
is. And there's a lot of awareness around it and a lot of discussions and it's tough. Like I had planned on dental school. My entire like from the end of high school through all of college, as I mentioned, started a master's. Um, and I think we're both in the same mindset that dogs rule, and I think life is happier when. Now, you would have been getting to spend time with dogs. Maybe I could have been a tooth or a dog dentist, but I don't know if that's probably a thing. But was working with dogs, how was that? Was that part of your healing journey? Did that kind of help you work through those times?
Dogs have always been a part of my healing. I mean, honestly, that's for me a big part of my childhood was there was a lot of trauma. And so even the dog I mentioned, the neighborhood dog, being able to go spend time with him was healing in and of
Yeah,
itself. So dogs have always been there for me. They've always been a part of my healing journey. Honestly, I think I didn't consciously realize how big of an impact they had on my mental health until I started working more in depth as an adult on my own
right.
healing as well as continued working with dogs. And I swear it's like every day, honestly, that I continue onward, I learn more about
Sure.
how impactful they are on my mental health and how beneficial they can be. And so yeah, they've always been a part of my healing journey. They've always been a big part of my life. And it's so cheesy, but they've saved me in many ways.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just so positive. They're there for you. They'll do a lot of listening. Sometimes they talk back with some barking, but for the most part, they're there to let you ramble. I believe there's studies, right? Like when you are around a dog, your serotonin levels boost. I believe theirs do too. And like, it's a sort of I think I read it as like an antidepressant, but without the actual like, pill, which is that's kind of cool. To think about. So, going along with mental health, now you were planning on kind of going down that track, right? Once,
Yeah.
you kind of were working through your stuff. So, what did that look like and then what made you kind of pivot to Adventure Hounds?
Yeah, so I went down my own healing journey, and as I went further and further on my own healing journey, learning about mental health, I got my undergrad degree in psychology. I went on to get a master's in somatic psychology as well, because
What
I
is
got
somatic psychology?
oh, well, that's a loaded question. Somatics is, to put it simply, somatics is an understanding of the body,
Mhm.
in a way of how the body interacts with our emotions, um, with our more, it's kind of like, to put it simply, it's kind of like the intersection of the mind and the body ultimately, and kind of where our minds and our bodies intersect. And so, yeah, and so that's yeah, a simplified way. Really to understand somatics, it's to experience it in your own body. When you take a deep breath, if you breathe in and then
Right,
exhale, let go, you notice a little bit of a shift in your body and just
right.
bringing awareness to that, that's
Sure.
somatic in and of
Sure.
itself.
And then
Uh,
with that in psychology, the idea would be theoretically utilizing certain techniques, breathing, right? Or I don't know, a ton of examples of other, but different kinds of therapy that can help you be in touch with your body that will ultimately help, issues that may be going on in your mind, kind of.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a lot of different avenues of somatics, and it's a kind of an umbrella term for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. My own focus was in yoga therapy, so I did a certificate in yoga therapy at the same time and kind of went
Awesome.
that route.
Yeah.
But there's
Do you
a
still
lot.
do some yoga now?
What was
I
that?
said, do you still do some yoga now?
Oh yeah, it's been a huge part of my healing journey,
Yeah.
honestly. I can't not do it because it's what keeps me grounded. It's what keeps me
Sure.
balanced. Um,
Yeah.
it's a big part of my life as well.
That's
Yoga and
amazing.
dogs have been a big part of my healing journey for
I'm
sure.
assuming you've gone to a couple dog yoga classes. You had to have.
You know, Have I ever actually been to a dog yoga class? I don't know if I actually have.
That's a 2026 a New Year's resolution for you, right? As long as it's ethical, right? As long as the dogs are coming from ethical places, of course.
That was the first thing that popped into my
Yeah,
brain is seeing some unethical
there
scenarios.
are. There
Here.
are.
Yeah. So we're puppy mill dogs.
You can do yoga with your dogs. That still
Well,
counts.
that happens on like every other day. That happens. My dogs are up. I guess technically I'm always doing dog yoga because
There
they're
you
always
go. There you go.
up.
So, what made you so did you finished your master's?
Yeah,
Uh,
so I finished my master's degree. The whole time I was doing my undergrad degree and my master's degree, though, to pay off my loans, I was working with dogs.
so awesome.
So the
So
whole time, so Adventure Hounds started like while I'm in school, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go in the mental health field. And all along, I've never stopped working with dogs. It's always
right.
I would dog sit on the side, or I would train somebody. Word of mouth would be like, "I need you to help me with with my dog," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I can train your dog." And but it was never my focus shifted, and I it was never my main focus anymore. Once I hit adulthood, I was like, "Okay, I'm going into the mental health field. That's what I'm
Yeah,
gonna."
you're like I gotta get a real job. That's kind of how I felt. I was like I need to get a quote unquote real job. I can't just do dogs, but you can. You can just work with dogs.
Absolutely can. No, and I think you're right. And I think that was a big block for me. It was almost like working with dogs like was like looked down upon in a sense. And like that was I don't know, that it was just always a side thing for me. And
Yeah.
it's not true. And now that I know that and I see that and I've built my own business and it's been incredible. And now I teach other trainers how to work with dogs and how to build their own businesses. And it's incredible. And I love it. And I wish I did it sooner, honestly. I wish I had
Well,
known
you
sooner.
almost, I mean, things tend to happen at different times, and you can kind of look at them as like a negative or positive, right? And if you choose to be like, okay, well, this happening led me in this direction or this direction, and continue to stay positive about, it, you'll in the present, you'll find yourself pretty happy with what you do, and you're right. I mean, some people. I don't want to say look down upon, but like some people might be like, oh, well, I can just cancel a session, or, I'm just gonna, not really, maybe I won't. Answer text as fast or do it's just different things where when you're doing dog jobs and I think I can for me personally I can either get like oh man like they canceled I'm never going to work with them. Or I could just say okay I'm going to be as flexible as I can and make sure I'm still positive and help people out with their dogs because ultimately whether it's recognized or not by people the services that are provided by you, by me, any other dog professionals are incredibly important, especially in this day of age. People, they can't bring their dogs with them. They need someone to stay, or like if they're having issues with their dog that they love, they might need some extra help. So it's cool to say that out loud and really kind of, give yourself that affirmation, which you don't have to, of course, but I don't know. It's good. It's good food for thought, at least.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think one of my goals within the dog industry as a whole is to raise the level of integrity that we have as dog professionals because I think it's so, so, so important. I take a lot of pride in my work, and I think our work is so important, and I think we need to recognize that, and we need to. Honestly, I'm kind of like, let's up the standard of dog care, of dog walking, of dog training. Like the standard needs to
Yes.
in my opinion. So I'm on a mission to raise that standard as much as I
Yeah.
can.
So Adventure Hounds, you were in. Now, I don't know where you said you were in school doing the training. Was that Pennsylvania as well?
I did my school out in California actually. I've been all
Cool.
over.
That's right. Y'all were the California.
Yep.
That was we were talking about
Yep.
California. That's right. So you were out there for a while, and then in moving back to North Carolina, starting really, you're kind of starting from ground zero again, right? Like maybe you have a couple of friends in the area, maybe you didn't, but was that having clientele in California and moving in North Carolina, was that kind of tough at first?
Yeah. Yeah, it was tricky. I was pretty nervous about it. I will say though, Instagram has always been my friend. Instagram has been such an incredible platform for me and has allowed me to have reach in so many different places that I feel like I kind of like I have some people wherever I go in a
Oh, it's
sense.
great. It's
And so
great.
Yeah, and so that's been a really cool way to be able to connect with people all over. And I do have a lot of clients who, because of the way my programs are structured, and I do virtual programs, and I have people travel from out of state even to work with me. My reach is kind of like pretty far.
That's great.
So that was a big help, and that was a big bonus for me in moving. Because yeah, that can be tricky to move somewhere new and try and build up clients again, try and build up community again,
Yep.
right? And I'm still figuring it out. We've only been here for under 2 years, and
Yeah.
so I'm still kind of figuring it out as I go. But
I mean, I've said it and I'll say it again. It's dog, especially dog related things, animal, cats, word of mouth. That's really, it's our, okay, I vouch for this guy, or oh, this lady did a great job, that kind of thing. And it is. But once you start and people see that you do good work, you do honest work, you're communicative, it works out. So before, getting into kind of the spread, and I know you have some other programs and I guess different places that you train with. What exactly is Adventure Hounds? What kind of things do you offer? I know there's not board and training. There's another way to say it too. So
yeah. So overall, Adventure Hounds, I mean, it's in the name. I love adventure.
great name.
My little
Great name.
yeah, my little tagline is go outside with your dog. So if anything, like my ultimate goal is to inspire owners to go outside with their dog, get on the trail, go find some nature, go walk slow, and just allow your dog to exist in nature, explore, go walk up a creek with the dog. Like it's getting out into nature is the number one thing. And so if anything, that's what my hope is to inspire that.
Cool.
Beyond that, I really, because of my journey with my own mental health and my studies in somatic psychology, I really weave an understanding of the nervous system into the work that I do. And so I talk a lot about the nervous system, and I really, really, really look at the root cause of all dog behavioral issues is nervous system dysregulation. That's ultimately what it comes down to. It comes down to a dysregulated nervous system. And dog training really is just about regulating a dog's nervous system
Right. As well as your own, right?
well as your own. The trainer, anyone who interacts with the dog plays a role as well. So I talk a lot about, yep, human nervous system regulation is a big part of it too. And that's why I talk about mental health is because that plays a big role in it too. And the owner's mental health plays a big role, right? And so it's all very intertwined. And I look at things very holistically. Yeah, like where is the owner's mental health at? How is the dog sleeping? How is the dog interacting with other dogs in the household? Like, I really like to look at the bigger picture of everything, and really see things through the lens of the nervous system. And that's quite different from a lot of other dog training that you're going to see out there. I am a trainer who, because of how I look at the nervous system, I don't really totally care about obedience all that much. And I know that like shocks some people.
Yeah.
But I don't always care if a dog can sit or down. I care how well they can regulate themselves.
Right.
And to me is like the number one importance. And so I talk a lot about that. So that's kind of like the overarching thread that kind of runs through the work that I do. And I offer a number of different programs. I do my biggest program is my Healing Hounds program where a dog comes, stays with me, and I train the dog anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks.
Hmm.
And and I will say too, it goes beyond just the dog coming to me for training. I do a lot of owner education.
That's one thing I loved when we first chatted
Yeah,
was the owner, and I'll let you keep talking about it, but the owners need to continue what
yes.
you've kind of instilled in the dog.
Absolutely. And I think that's my number one thing. I will tell people like you can give a dog to me and I'll be able to train the dog, right? But the key is when I give the dog back to the owner, what have they learned? How are they integrating the training? Do they feel confident implementing it, right? And so that's something that's like the number one important thing to me, is that I'm actually teaching owners as well. And so the format of my programs allows for that education throughout the process. And so that's a huge part. And so that's the biggest program I run. I also do virtual programs. I also do workshops. I also do a mentorship and shadow program for dog trainers,
Awesome.
or people who want to be dog trainers,
Hmm.
where I kind of teach my methods. I talk about nervous system regulation and the lens of the nervous system. I talk about our mental health as dog trainers, because as dog trainers in this industry, the whole dog industry, but especially dog trainers, there's a big gaping hole of talking about mental health in the dog
Yeah,
training world. And I think a lot of dog trainers struggle with mental health. And so
sure.
that's an area that I'm like, let's continue the conversation around mental health as
Right.
trainers.
Yeah, and I mean it's I tend to, I guess, analogize a bit about stuff, but like I noticed that when I mean, I had one day where I literally had 20 dog jobs, right? And like I have a hard time. I mean, I was 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. And I have sometimes a hard time right now. I want to make it work for everyone. And so, and then, if I'm driving longer distances, that kind of thing. And so, there's definitely some rough patches, and I definitely don't deal with it perfectly, but something I try to do is I want to do something fun every day. So like I went to trivia last night with some friends, like going to a comedy show tonight. Like, yeah, I got to work during the day, but and also every time I walk a dog, it's awesome, right? Like that's at a base level, our work is awesome, And so I think you're right. I mean, the mental and when you have lots of projects going on or different, irons in the fire, I think it's important to be able to sit back. Like I want to run 4 times a week. I haven't done that probably in like a year, right? And like if okay, I have the option tonight, I can go like I need to go lift or I need to go do something, right? Like I have some things that are, I try not to make them non-negotiables, Um, but I also give myself a break, and I think that that's really important, especially with the dog training when you have those dogs with you in your house.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I think one of the things in the dog industry is everyone gets into the dog industry because we have big hearts and we love the dogs, right? And that's why we're here.
You'd
And so
hope
what
so. You'd hope so.
hope so, right? I think, yeah, vast majority of us, we got big hearts, we love the dogs. And so I think what happens is then we don't put any boundaries around how much we love the dogs. And we're like, oh, well, I'll bend over backwards for this particular dog. But what happens is when you bend over backwards for dog after dog after dog after dog, then you end up not having any time.
Snap in half. It's over.
You snap in half,
Yeah.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
And so that is one thing I talk so much with my trainers about boundaries. And I'm like, set boundaries around your day with your owners, whatever it looks like. I think it's so important, because I think it's so easy to get sucked into this work and it's so easy to get burnt out if you don't set those boundaries and you don't take that time. I'm a big proponent of first thing in the morning, especially if you are someone who has dogs at your house, first thing in the morning to wake up. And you're gonna be shocked at what I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna say wake up and don't let the dog out right away. Don't feed the dogs right away. Wake up and take care of yourself. I wake up, I have a cup of tea, I meditate, I do some deep breathing. It could only, sometimes it's only for 10, 15 minutes, sometimes it's 30 or so minutes, but I
Sure.
tend to myself. And then when I'm ready, then I tend to all the dogs. And that includes
That's
my own as
that's
well.
awesome because then they're, more calm as well. I thought you were gonna say wake up and hit the snooze button, go back to bed, but I mean that's what I do, but but
I
yes.
mean, I definitely sometimes do that too. And that can be important too.
That's self-care. The snooze button is self-care, right?
Yeah, I just think it's so important, especially in the morning, first thing. Start your day with caring for you, and that sets the tone for the rest of the day. And in my opinion, we'll be better carers for the dogs when we actually care for ourselves. And so
Yeah.
I think it's so important to, yeah, to have that mindset. And it can be hard. It can be hard, but
Well, I think that applies to mental health and in general, or I don't know, interacting with other people in relationships. If you don't help yourself first, if I have some things and I notice that I'm doing, maybe some bad habits, or I'm not as amped up each day as I want to be, well, before I go, because ultimately what we're doing is helping other people, feel secure that their dogs are well taken care of. As bad as we want to do that, we to be able to sustain that, day after day and enjoy the present. It is important to do those little things that take care of yourself, which I think is great. And I am 23, almost 24 on Sunday, but There we
Happy
go. Thank
birthday.
you. Thank you. Yeah, I had to pause and get that out from it. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, I mean, what do I know that I'm talking about? But, over different times and different experiences, and I'm sure like you didn't have these same mottos and same things when you first started, and you just learned over time, which is what's cool. There's always going to be learning.
Absolutely. And even a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, I'm going to be continually learning. And I think that that's important too, especially for trainers who get really stuck in their methods and stuck in their ways. I think it's important for us to remember that we're always continually learning. There's always a new dog to learn from. There's always a new person to learn from, right? We can always learn, we can always grow, and we can always shift. And I think yeah, having that mindset has helped me. I think I used to be more rigid, especially when it came to training methods. I felt like you had to do A, B, C, and D. And I think as I've grown as a trainer, I've realized no, there's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and we can try any of them at any given point. And yeah, I think being more open-minded is something that can be really helpful as dog professionals for sure.
Definitely, and probably just across the board in general. I feel like being open-minded is typically a pretty good thing.
Yep.
So I know you mentioned earlier you kind of a goal of yours is and for all of dog community is kind of elevating that standard of care. And so, for us, of course, they're pretty intuitive, but we had talked about those WAGWORK certification modules that we're doing to make sure that we're kind of on the same base. And so I had, we've played around with the idea of doing dog training, dog grooming modules. However, I'm of a belief that you kind of need to be more hands-on in those two areas specifically, and you kind of need to and so I don't think that that's something that will, even though, yes, that could maybe sell or do well, I don't believe that that's something that maybe we should do. I could totally change my mind later, but, as of now, how do you, with your mentor, is it mentorship program?
Yeah.
How do you set that standard of care, and then, what, I don't want, not in a negative way, but like gives you the right, or like what makes you feel secure in like, okay, I'm offering this and I feel good about what I'm offering.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good question. I think one of the things I talk about in the program is adaptability and how do we be adaptable as trainers, both in our structure, as like structure of our programs, as well as our methods. And um, I think I what I bring forth as a trainer and as a dog professional and put out into the world, I have this mindset that it's you can kind of take as much of it as is relevant to you and who you are, and then you can kind of leave the rest. And I think that that's something that's so important. I'm not of the mindset of like my approach is right or how I do things is right and other
Sure.
people are wrong. I really think like how can we take this even like the lens of the nervous system, how can we take this lens of the nervous system and adapt it to the dog in front of us or the human in front of us or the owner with their dog in front of us or the trainer with the dog in front of us, how can we take that and adapt it to them. And I think that that's something that I feel very strongly about, is there's no right or wrong or there's no like black and white, and that we need to be more adaptable and more open-minded again. That word comes back to me. Yeah, and adaptable in our approaches and in our work, I think is
Well,
really
and I
important.
think that your work speaks for itself, right? The market, the popular opinion, that really is the determinant of, okay, you are able to do this, right? Like same as right now, I'm doing a bunch of dog jobs. People most of the time seem to be pretty happy. Okay, that's great. So how can we do that standard of care? You have clients, you've had clients, and now you have people coming to you to learn. And I think that in the sense of itself, even if it's like this approach versus this approach, keeping an open mind, the fact that that's happening shows that you can have that elevated standard of care.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too that I'm big on right now, especially in the dog world and the dog training world, is transparency. I think transparency is something that is so not valued in the dog world, and unfortunately, I think that's what keeps the standard of care really low.
In what ways would you say it's not valued?
Well, well, in what ways is it not valued?
You can
So
keep going on your state. We can come back to that. It's totally fine. I know I threw a wrench in there.
Oh, you're totally fine. I'm just thinking through like on. in today's day and age, we have social media. It
Hmm.
is so easy to post a photo or a video on social media of the dog in your care. Like it's
Right.
so easy, right? And so that to me is something that right away ups the standard of care is that dog professionals should be transparent about the dogs in their care. And in my
Sure.
opinion, we should be posting it on social media. And
Oh
granted,
yeah.
I post a lot on social media and I'm like video after video, but it's because I want to educate, I want to share as much information as I
Yeah.
can.
You have a lot of great content.
A lot, a lot. It's a lot of content, a lot going on. But I really think that's one way we should be upping the standard of care is I think we
Sure.
should be videos of the dogs in our care. We should be showing owners, whether you're walking or it's dog sitting or it's training, right? What's happening with the dog? What's happening in their day to day? What's happening when you're interacting with the dog? I think that that's something that at this point in the world, and this might be a controversial thing to say, but at this point in the world, if I don't see a dog professional posting videos or kind of sharing what's going on in the dog's life, the dogs that they're caring for, I get a little suspicious, honestly, because I'm like,
Sure.
what are they posting? What's going on, right?
Well, and I
Um,
think too, I'll add in right, maybe for dog trainers, maybe this isn't, what you feel like, but I feel like if you have a dog in your care and you're training it and you're not seeing the exact results that you want to, there's still maybe be pulled to like, well, this is good and this is good, even though that transparency of, hey, we're having a bit of trouble with this because if you bring the dog back, they're gonna have trouble with it, right? And then you get into this whole back and forth kind of thing, whether, if you're honest up front or something happened, went wrong, makes a difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's so true. Yeah, and I think too, I do like to share those messy moments where, especially with training, like if I do have a messy moment with a dog where I'm like, well, it doesn't feel like they're getting it. How do I work them through that? I think that can be really valuable for people to see too, because there's always messy moments in
Oh,
training.
sure, sure.
So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, you do a great. Was it your post? I think it was where you're talking about on a walk, like you see a bench, have them go up on the or have them stop. And so I was walking Gracie this morning. I walk her about every day. It's a lady in my neighborhood. She's awesome. But I practice just I'm doing a little bit, right? Training is not in my wheelhouse. I got a lot going on, but I just every now and then I just look, I say, all right, Gracie, hold, and we just stop. And I
Yeah,
just sat there for a second, and I did that because I saw your thing, and I was like, cool. I'm doing
I
something,
love
switching up
it.
her routine a little bit, and she's improved so much just with me walking. But first, she, would not move at all, and just I'm not doing much training, but I'm just being consistent, and it's cool to see. It's cool, and I saw that, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna try it out. Gracie was
Yeah.
like, come on, I need to get my greenie treat. What are you doing?
I love it though. I love it. And that's so cool to hear. And that's such a testament to why I share things on social media because it makes an impact on other people. And I
Yes,
think that's so cool. And it makes an impact on the dog. So
yeah,
that's super
it
cool.
really does. I wanted to also switch gears a little bit. I wanted to, again, kind of a controversial thing that we had discussed, but I still think it's important, to kind of show how this can be used as a tool. Do you want to talk a little bit on e-collars?
Absolutely. I am always down to talk on e-colors. They're super controversial, but I think they're controversial because there are a lot of people who use them problematically. And I think that's one of the biggest issues. Um,
Trainers or owners or both?
both, absolutely both. Yeah, there's a lot of improper use, and to me, it's just a lot of miseducation. Like there's an understanding um, there's a misunderstanding, I should say, I think in the dog world that e-collars mean pain and punishment, and that's all that they mean, and that they're these really harsh devices that shock a dog. And the reality is that e-collars it's a stimulation. It's not actually an electrical shock. It's a muscle stimulation. It is the same technology as a TENS unit, which is used by chiropractors.
Hmm.
And the beautiful thing about e-collars is that the e-collar that I use by e-collar technologies, it has 1 to 100 levels, and you can get really nuanced on those levels. And I aim to, as much as possible, use the levels as a low-level communication device. Now, if you want to understand what I'm talking about there, because it gets really nuanced, go watch my videos on social media. I've got story highlight after story highlight of how I condition an e-collar with a dog. But they're really incredible tools. I used to be in the mindset mindset of like, oh, e-collars are too harsh. I don't need one. And then I started learning how to actually use them with my own dogs. And they changed our lives, honestly.
Wow. Wow.
Changed a lot
And I
of
know
the
that you give them to the clients as well after. Now, do you see? I know because one of the best trained dogs that I've walked, I think it does have like kind of an e-collar, but it walked right next to me without, even having to have a leash, and I was like, wow. But do you is there always a plan to kind of break the e-collar? Because I maybe people want that, maybe people don't. Or, like maybe people just want their dog to have a collar. Everyone has different preferences kind of thing. Is that kind of part of your training as well, kind of phasing it out, or does it matter?
So to me, I think that mindset of like feeling like we need to phase it out, that's just it's to me it's the same frame of mind of like an e-collar is punishment and the e-collar is bad.
Interesting. Yeah, I do know after I said that you mentioned
Huh?
that. You're right. Like that is
And
kind of my thing. I was like, well, I feel like you don't want to have it forever. That's kind of my take on it from what I don't know, right?
And so I think when you see an e-collar the way I see e-collars and the way I use e-collars, you're kind of like, well, what's the point? Why would I ever phase it out? Because when you see how they're used. Now, what I will say for my own dogs, I almost never have to use an e-collar anymore. The only time I 100% will always have an e-collar on my own dogs is when they're off leash because
Gotcha.
anything can happen, deer, whatever, road, anything can happen. And so that's the one time I'll always have an e-collar on my dogs. But I have pretty much phased them out with my two dogs. Though I've never had the mindset of like I need to phase out the e-collar because to me
Right.
it's a beneficial tool. So why would I have the mindset, oh, I need to get rid of it as soon as possible? To me, that's just like, yeah, it's just that continued thought of like, oh, e-collars are punishment and they're bad, right? And
Right.
I think you shift that perspective, then you'll start to see like, whatever, doesn't matter.
Well, I think too, dog trainers, especially, I guess well-received ones they're teaching themselves a lot of time and they find out what works. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, having options A through F or whatever, and knowing that you can use those in any particular order for any dog, you have them there with you. They're in your toolkit. And some dogs will reply, or respond to A, and some will respond to C. I think being that I've heard the term balanced dog trainer before is I don't know if you said that to me. I know someone else did too, so I'll give you credit if you want. But the concept of being balanced in what you do, I think that really ups your game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if people were to categorize me, they'd probably categorize me as balanced, but I have honestly tried to stay away from labels when it
That
comes to
term.
what kind of trainer I
Yeah, we
am.
don't need the labels. Psh.
Well, my whole thing is there's so much of butting heads within the dog training world, and that you hear the words purely positive trainer or you hear the words
Yes.
balance, and it automatically elicits a reaction from people because there's a lot of stigma around
Mm-hmm.
these different types of methods.
Yeah.
And so for me, I don't want to be a part of that stigma, and I don't want to be a part of the community that's constantly butting heads and hating on
Right.
each other.
Right.
Like that's
That's
so
not where
not
you want to
necessary.
be. You want to be out there spreading your education, positivity, and training
Absolutely.
training the next generation of dog trainers, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's so important. And so I really try to stay away from that.
Yeah.
And to me, it's more about what is the work I'm doing rather than the label that I'm putting on myself. Where are my clients? Are they happy? Are they doing well? And that's my priority ultimately.
I love it. I love it. So we have just under 2 minutes. Would you maybe want to, say where people can find you and anything you got coming up, that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. So follow me on Instagram, Adventure Hounds NC, so Adventure Hounds North Carolina. Check out my story highlights. If you're needing any support with your dog, my story highlights, there's literally hundreds of hours of video on any of those story highlights. If you have a reactive dog, I would say go watch Grover or go watch what's another recent one I've had, another recent Frank. Frank is a really recent one too, and go through, watch a story highlight. Feel free to message me on Instagram if you need any support with your dog. My DMs are always open. I'm always there for support. So,
That is
um,
fantastic. And who knows, adventure grounds in the future,
yeah,
perhaps.
venture ground.
Perhaps,
I think it's coming.
I think so too. I think down the line. I love it. I love it. Well, Sam, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. And I'm sure I will see you soon since we're both in the area.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. All right. Bye bye.